Hey everybody, I'm out here in Brantford getting ready to do a walkthrough for a condo that one of my clients is getting ready to buy over on Hammer Lane. Just wanted to talk about key dates. So we've talked about a bunch of different things, all of it leading up to getting the house under contract when you're looking to buy a house. Now that you have that contract, there's a bunch of key dates you need to think about. So I wanted to talk, and this is kind of like, if your kids are signing up for a sporting event, if you sign up by a certain time, it costs $20. If you wait until after that, it costs $25. Or if you got to pay your bills, right? If you pay by the 15th, you're good to go. If you don't pay by the 15th, then you got to pay an extra 10% or whatever. It's the same thing, except it can be a lot more expensive when you're working on buying a house if you miss a date. So some of those key dates are the contract date. So that's when everybody has signed the contract and it's executed. Everybody's on agreement. This is who's going to buy and this is who's going to sell, how much it costs, all that. That date is used to base a lot of other dates off of. Then there's a next one, which is home inspection. The home inspection date or contingency date is very important. It's typically 10 days after you after you sign the contract. And it allows you to go in with a home inspector or whatever you wrote into the contract to check for radon, check for asbestos, lead, the physical condition of the house. And it's a way to get out of the contract if there's problems that you didn't see when you were actually looking at the house to begin with. So that's an important date. It's usually about 10 days. Make sure you're paying attention to that. Your agent, should be paying attention to it as well. Another important date is the mortgage commitment date. So that's the date that the bank has to tell you by that date that they're going to give you a loan. And if you can't get a loan by that date, then you can get out of the contract again. It's another escape clause. Very important to manage that. Good example, I've got a client who's buying a house and selling a house. On the sale side, things are going along nicely. On the buy side, we had to extend the mortgage commitment because we still had to do a little bit of work and we just weren't ready yet. So if we hadn't been managing that mortgage commitment date, the day would have passed and we would have lost out on the ability to get out of that deal if something goes south. Hopefully it continues and goes well, but that's something that's out there. Some other items, closing. Closing in Connecticut, people think there's a date and that's the date you're going to close. In Connecticut, it can be as much as a month, depending on delays, depending on the situation with the contract. So just be aware that the closing date is actually one of those dates, unless you have very specific language in the contract that can move around quite a bit. Typically, the attorneys will schedule the closing as you get closer to it, but just stay in contact with your agent and your attorney, and they'll be able to give you good information there. Some other dates to think about is when you're getting your house, you'll typically lock your rate. You'll do a rate lock. That is, every lender does it a little bit differently, but make sure you talk to your lender and understand what the rate lock contingencies are, how much it costs to extend a rate lock, because it does cost money once you lock that rate to extend it beyond the time that you're initially given. Another good one is when you're actually getting ready to buy, the pre-approval. Typically, people are looking for a pre-approval within the last month to make sure that you're good. So those are a few dates that you really need to pay attention to. It's kind of like anything else, like in the long run. And again, work with your agent, and I or whoever you're working with can help you out to make sure those dates are followed. And important point, you can extend a lot of those dates, but you've got to get agreement with the other side. So work diligently to get those criteria met so that you don't have to worry about the dates. But if you do need to extend, talk to your agent and your attorney and you can figure that out. You guys have a great day. We'll talk soon.